With Mark Hairston. I'm your host, Mark Hairston, and very excited about my guest today. I will introduce in just a second. And we're going to get off path a little bit. Typically, this show is around mortgage information, qualifying for loans, investing in properties, some legal aspects, possibly credit scoring, that sort of thing. Today, my guest is Kevin Kluge, who is a manager of the. Introduce yourself again.
Water Conservation Division at Austin Water.
Manager. I knew that off the top of my head. I just blacked out. And this is a subject that everybody needs to be listened to and knowing about, because this summer in 2023 was one of the hottest ones I've been through. I've been here 46 years, and I've seen Lake Travis go up and down over the years. But water is such a critical thing. It always has been, but especially as Austin has grown so much in the last certainly the last 20 years, And I'm really glad to have Kevin on to share his knowledge and expertise around conserving water and what it looks like and what we're going to do in the future about it as it relates to development of real estate, that sort of thing. So take it away, Kevin. I'm just going to kind of sit back as a listener, and we'll chat a little bit, but I want you to kind of run with it.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. It's great being on this show, particularly one that talks about mortgage, because water really impacts all facets of our life and our development and our economy. So it's important to realize how water can intersect with different parts of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I was joking before we started. I said, my knowledge of water is when I turn my faucet on and I expect it to come out, and it always does. And that's about the limit of my involvement.
Right.
So
and that's a good thing.
Something else. It is a really good thing, especially with hot water in the shower.
Exactly. Yeah, and water and the mortgage industry have a lot in common. They really both deal with a lot of supply and demand issues.
That's right.
When you have less supply, you have to make adjustments. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're doing in water conservation in the city of Austin.
Excellent. Give us
some background on myself. I actually grew up in Nebraska, a land of clean and bountiful groundwater, and never really gave water a second thought. After going to college, I went into the U.S. Peace Corps for several years on an island in the Pacific, and that's really where I first got a glimpse of the value of water, because our host family, our water supply was rainwater catchment.
Okay.
So it rained a lot on this island of Pohnpei. So the catchment tanks often filled up, but there would be several months in a row that we didn't have anything, and you'd see that water go down in those tanks. Right. So it really stressed to me the value of water. I came back, did a graduate school in resource economics, and then came down to Texas, following my wife, where I met in the Peace Corps.
Awesome.
In Austin.
Yeah.
So that's where we ended up, and I've worked at the Texas Water Development Board, a state agency in charge of planning and financing water across the state, for 20 years.
Okay.
And then coming over to the city of Austin for the last 2 years to really help implement some of these ideas that they conceive of at the state level, but it really has to be implemented at the local level.
Are these ideas implemented all over the state? Whatever these, I want you to go in deep dive into these ideas.
So one of the things that the state of Texas has, which is really, I'd say unusual, really sets the state apart. We have a very strong and robust water planning process at the state level.
Okay.
Which they look at how much all the cities and larger utilities are going to need, and then they put in strategies for these different needs that these cities have, and these industries and ag and what have you. But they only identify the strategy. That's picking your battles. Implementing it at the local level, that's fighting the battles.
Right.
And that's
what you do.
And that's what I do at the city of Austin here.
Okay.
Is implement those envisioned conservation ideas on the ground and with customers.
Awesome. Can you share some of those things with us?
So while I mentioned the state of Texas has a very robust planning program, so does the city of Austin. We have a great planning program, 100 years out, but we also have a very strong conservation division and programs within the city. Not only do we have rebates, but we do have one of the few one-day-a-week watering schedules across the state. Okay. There's only a few other utilities that have 1 day a week watering, which has really helped us to become much more efficient over time.
Great.
So
I failed to mention where I met you about, it was probably August, possibly. I saw you at a not sort of a round table, but more of a speaker panel, and you were one of the speakers of a group of realtors at the Board of Realtors. And I was really impressed with, what you said, because again, I don't really think about it, but you talked about Lake Travis being our water supply. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or the Highland Lakes.
Yeah, Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan are really where we store our water. And unless you drive by them every once in a while, you don't often realize how low they have become. Because as you mentioned before, you turn on the water on the tap, and the water comes out. Whether the storage is 100% and 50% or 30%, the water's coming out, and you don't realize where our water supply is.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, this last summer was one of the hottest on records. It was a very hot summer. So there's a lot of evapotranspiration, irrigation, what have you. People used water when it's really hot.
Right.
And we've been having constraints on our water supply over the last several years, actually. We really depend on rain, not in Austin. It's great when it rains here in Austin, but it's really important when it rains up basin of us, upstream, right, up in the hill
country.
country.
Where would that start? San Saba, places like that?
San Saba, Llano, further up, the Colorado River. That inflow, that's kind of like our income into our bank account.
Yeah.
If Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan are our bank account levels, how much comes in is the income.
Yeah.
And that, as you mentioned, is record high temperatures this last year. But last year, the inflow or income into those Highland Lakes was at a record low.
At a record low?
At a record low in 2022.
I remember 11 being very bad too, 2011.
It was.
So
but
I've been around this area.
We set a new record in 2022 in terms of water coming into the Highland Lakes. So as a result of that, our lakes have gone down to about, between the two, Buchanan and Travis, we have about 40% of our water supply.
Okay.
So it's been going down, down, down. And that's where we're really trying to get serious about helping folks save water. Now, these last couple of weeks, we've had some good rains. It's been nice, cooled off, and it's gone up. About 2 billion gallons have gone into those two reservoirs, which seems like a lot, 2 billion gallons. But that's taken us from 40% to 42. You're really close. So it improved it by 2%, all of that rain. So even though we're getting rain, it's not going to immediately take us out of drought. It's going to be a while before we can get out of drought.
Yeah, I was telling you, I live in Lakeway, so I'm very familiar with the lake levels. I don't live on the lake proper, but I do live in Old Lakeway, and we cross the dam all the time. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I took my grandson to a area, they used to call it Sometimes Island, right there across from the Oasis. Well, now it's a peninsula. We walked out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it may have covered up now, that little area that you could walk, but still I'm thinking this is pretty, I've never seen it quite like this, so it's concerning.
Right.
And I've been thinking more about just when I do my dishes and my wash clothes, and all that sort of thing. How much water really is that? I don't think about it, but I've been thinking about it ever since I talked to you or met you, so.
Well, that wondering how much water I really use is one of the strategies that Austin is really implementing now. And that's a strategy of installing smart meters for all Austin Water customers.
Okay.
So these are meters we're putting on, and they transmit how much is going through the meter every hour up to a system, the cloud, I guess. Okay. And then Austin Water customers can now sign into the portal and see exactly how much water they're using every hour. And
every hour.
If you wanted to, you could. It's about a 1 day delay between getting the data up there. But once it's up there, then you can see it. Okay. Right. We have about 250,000 customers, Austin Water, and we have about 190,000 of these smart meters installed.
Okay.
So we're almost there. Maybe in this next year or so, we'll have it across the board with everyone in the smart meter, then people can see how much they're using.
Yeah.
If they wonder how much is that irrigation time
Exactly.
using, and they can also sign up for a number of great alerts like leak alerts. The system will tell you if it detects a leak going on
Okay.
for multiple hours,
Okay.
and it will let you know. Or it will also let you know, and you can set this on your portal, if you're going up into one of the higher cost tiers.
Okay.
Because in Austin rates, we have 5 tiers, and it gets more expensive the more you use.
Okay.
So some customers may want to know if they're projected to go up into that 4th tier.
That's a good point.
To give them a little, hey, we're just letting you know you might be going up into that at this rate.
Get a little more expensive that way.
Right. So.
And I remember, that wasn't this summer, but I own a home also in the Lost Creek area in West Austin. And a neighbor knocked on my door at like 5:30 in the morning and said, "Hey man, you've got a river running through your front yard."
Oh wow.
And it was in the summer, it was a drought that year too. I forget what year, but that wasn't that long ago. Anyway, the ground had cracked the pipe right there along the street there, and the water was pouring out. Now I will say the city got out there very quickly. We called whatever number you called, and they were out there within half an hour, to take care of that. So that was really good. But the guy was saying that the ground, because of the drought, was so dry, it can actually affect the piping. So that was my experience, which wasn't good, but it happens.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's just one of the ways that Austin is working to make our system more sustainable. Because as we mentioned, at the top of the show, we mentioned, the mortgage industry and really the growth of the city, kind of how that fuels that. And that often leads to the question, how can we continue to grow with essentially the same amount of water? The reservoirs aren't going to change.
Right.
Hopefully they'll start filling up faster, but we kind of have a set amount of water for Austin. And the question is, how can we continue to grow? Some people will say we can't grow because we won't have enough water.
In the 70s,
well, I'm personally always trying to be very pessimistic about how much water we'll have so that my group can prepare.
Sure.
I'm also very optimistic about what the city can do, because we have a smart, vibrant city, growing city, and we can do a lot with learning how to use water more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be really the key into the future in how Austin can grow.
Yeah.
Every current resident and business is going to have to learn to use just a little bit less every year going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But every new house, every new business is going to have to be even more efficient than the current ones.
Yeah.
And those are strategies that Austin Water and the city of Austin are also undertaking.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on there, because this is sort of a public awareness, announcement, if you will, public service, because I don't think I'm much different than a lot of people who don't give it that much thought, that it could be a problem,
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were describing in this meeting that I saw you speak about some sort of underground holding tank of water. Am I remembering that correctly?
Right. I mean, other than conservation, one of the near-term strategies that we have is what's called aquifer storage and recovery.
Okay.
So the aquifers are those layers of gravel, generally, deep in the ground, in which water is filled up. And when we have groundwater wells, we're pulling water out of those aquifers. Sure. Now, we aren't going to build any more reservoirs in the Highland Lakes area. Yeah. But what we can do is we can store water in these aquifers that have been drawn down a bit through groundwater use, put our excess water, when we have excess water, put it in there, and then when we need it, we pull it out.
Okay.
Now, some of the benefits of this aquifer storage and recovery is you don't have the evaporation loss, because the evaporation loss over Travis and Buchanan in the summer was as much as any other use. I mean, it was very significant.
How much do you think we lost in evaporation? Any ideas on that?
Boy, I have to admit, to be able to say I have no idea, but it's a significant amount.
We're talking about billions of gallons or something like that.
Right. It's a lot of water. So
Yeah.
when we put it on the ground, you don't lose it to evaporation,
Sure.
and you don't also have to take up land. So whenever you build a new reservoir, you have to purchase or condemn, or one combination or another, a large amount of land. But you don't have to do that for aquifer storage
Because it's already
and
there.
recovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, the uses that took place before the project can take place after.
Yeah.
So Austin is in the process of studying that to see where the best locations for this aquifer storage and recovery are. It looks as though maybe to the counties to the east of us, or East Travis County is where we have.
About Bastrop or somewhere in there.
Yeah, in those areas.
Along that
Right.
corridor.
Yeah. So our staff have been meeting with folks out there to assure them that this is a project that is not going to take their groundwater.
Sure.
It's actually going to fill up the aquifer
Good help.
until it's needed.
Yeah.
So
And what is your relationship with LCRA? Because I don't really understand that either, because it seemed to me that in the old days, the complaint was always that the LCRA controlled the water supply coming out of Travis to the farmers or something downstream. Is that still the way it works? Or?
that's still the way it works. LCRA, the Lower Colorado River Authority, manages the reservoirs and the release and a lot of the water in the Colorado River. So they do send water down to the farmers downstream, and they store water for us in the reservoirs. Since 2011, they've redone their water management plan to be more conservative. I'd say keep more water up.
Okay.
That was one of the things in 2011. They sent a big rush of water down in 2011, and that really set us in a tight spot. But
Yeah.
they've revamped that to be more conservative in terms of keeping water in the reservoirs.
Do you have any say over that with them, or they control that?
Not really.
Not really.
No, we are a wholesale customer.
Got it.
Generally,
Generally speaking.
some of the water rights we own, some of it we use from
But, yeah,
LCRAs.
my wife and I went down to the low water crossing across Lake Austin, right below Mansfield Dam, and
Mhm,
they weren't releasing any water at all.
mhm.
There was nothing, as far as I could tell, it didn't seem like there was any water coming out. So I
Right.
thought that's
Yeah.
good.
So we partner with LCRA in managing that water
Yeah.
in the Highland Lakes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been curious, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but it's not really a bone to pick, but I wonder why Lake Buchanan doesn't have the same, or LBJ have the same rules about, they don't release water. It's constant level.
Right. There are a number of lakes, Lake Austin, Ladybird Lake,
Yeah.
LBJ, that are constant level lakes. So that's one of the things that you go downtown Austin, you see Ladybird Lake is always full.
Always full.
What's the
Lake Austin
problem?
always-
Um,
But this is a big lake. I
Right.
mean, LBJ is a big lake.
Right.
I'm just curious
yeah, I'm not sure under
Okay.
operating.
on how the rules work around
Right.
that. But anyway, it's no big deal. What else can you share that can teach us something about water conservation? Because I'm really interested in this.
Well, we have a number of things for Austin customers and customers of small water utilities that we provide water to. They're all eligible for these things. But we have various rebates. People can get, they can also get small household water efficiency things mailed to them.
Okay.
That's handy if you need a new shower head or
Okay.
faucet aerator. We can mail those to customers. As I mentioned, we have rebates for improving your water efficiency in your home landscape. We have rebates for irrigation upgrades. So
Okay.
if you want to have a pressure reduction device or new water efficient heads on your irrigation system, we can offset the cost of that.
Awesome.
If you just want to get rid of that and go with a more local scape landscape that doesn't involve all turf,
Yeah.
more beds, we also have a rebate for that, what we call it Waterwise Landscape.
Okay.
We recently increased it over the spring from the rebate amount from 30 cents per square foot to $1 per square foot.
Dang.
So that's a nice increase. I think it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So we finally did that.
Where would we do some research around that further? Was there a website we can go to, or?
Austin Water, I'm sorry, waterwiseaustin.org, or simply, I have to admit, a web search, a Google search of
Just something like
Austin
that?
Water Conservation Rebates is probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Y'all don't have a preferred vendor list of landscapers, do you?
we do not.
Okay.
We do not.
I wasn't sure if that was a part of, of the deal there, because I wouldn't even know who to call.
That-
But I live in a condo now. It's a standalone single family home. It's in a condo regime, but the yard's tiny.
Mhm.
There's not much to it, so I don't think about that so much. But I do have another property with a large yard, and they need some attention there for sure.
So there's a wide range of different rebates that we have.
It's awesome. Do a lot of people take advantage of that?
It has been downturned with the pandemic, but we're
Mhm.
slowly building our way up.
Mhm.
So we're always hoping to get more people to do it, particularly if we need to adjust things or raise the rebate amounts. We're trying to get more and more people to participate.
Take advantage of that.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to mention is that while we're in the drought, we have a drought plan, a drought contingency plan, it's
Okay.
called, which really kind of sets the regulations and restrictions at these various levels of drought. We're in stage 2 drought. We've never been in stage 3, but knock on wood, we won't next summer. But that drought plan really kind of sets the tone for how we implement restrictions during the drought.
Okay.
We have to do a new drought plan and turn it into the state in 2024. So we are currently soliciting public input on a new drought plan. So if folks go to Speak Up Austin page, speakupaustin.org, and search for drought, they'll find out more information about this new drought plan that we're putting together
Okay.
and how they can lend their voices or thoughts to what we do with these drought plans.
How many stages are there? 3?
We have 4 stages
4.
currently.
Okay.
We went into stage 2 in August of this year, stage 1 in June of, I guess it would have been 22. As I mentioned, we have stage 3 and stage 4, which is emergency. We've never been in stage 3. We got close at that last drought,
Okay.
but
We've had a little relief since then.
we had a little release since then.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll never get to
Are you
stage
in
3.
Are you in contact with any meteorologists around this, or what are they saying about the winter time?
I did. I was at a seminar.
Dances? What do y'all do? Now?
I was at a seminar last week with Bob Rose of LCRA,
Okay.
and he's a well-known figure in
Sure.
Central Austin
Absolutely.
regarding the weather. And he was saying that we are in an El Nino pattern now.
Good.
We switched over from La Nina to El Nino, kind of the
I never
midsummer.
figured what that meant, but
Yeah.
it sounds good.
El Nino is a condition in which we typically have more precipitation.
Mhm.
Of course, we don't see it in the summer because we never really get precipitation in the summer. But Bob was really bullish on a strong El Nino
Good.
over the winter. So knock on wood, we'll get some rain over the winter, but particularly in April and May. That'll be really the clutch
Of the
time.
Because I just know this spring was pretty dry too.
Right.
And I'm thinking if it doesn't rain in April, May, it's going to be bad. Because
Yeah.
I've been, like I said, here a long time, and I've seen this lake. I say this lake, I mean Lake Travis primarily. Down, and then and sometimes it'll go back up in a few weeks with a lot of rain. I mean, so it's unbelievable how fast that thing can go up. But you still got to have the rain.
Right.
So
Yeah. Droughts are often broken by large floods, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's seldom that you get a long
steady,
slope.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And I've seen
gradual
floods in
slope.
July too.
Right.
Not often,
Mhm.
but I've seen floods in the Memorial Day floods for sure.
Right.
Or even in Christmas time. It's been kind of crazy. But anyway, I don't know really what else to ask. Anything else you want to share before we wrap this thing up?
I just have a couple takeaways for
Sure.
your listeners. First of all, let's try to save water over the winter time when we don't have that heat. So
Right.
first of all, I would suggest everyone turning off your irrigation systems if you haven't before.
Okay.
First of all, that saves water, and your landscape probably doesn't need extra irrigation at this point. So turn off the system. But more importantly, because we're coming up on the wastewater averaging period, where we take the water you used in between now and March, that's how you set your wastewater rates for the whole year
You mean for household?
for household.
Oh, I didn't know
Right.
that.
So turn off your irrigation system and you'll pay
plan.
less
Good
throughout
plan.
the year. Sign up for that My ATX Water smart meter portal if
Okay.
you have that meter, if you're in the city of Austin. And then I guess the last point would be start planning on how your landscape can be more water efficient in the summer. By June, that's too late to be
Too late.
planning. Right.
Too late.
Plan how you do that now, whether replace turf or augment the soil.
Mhm.
Start thinking about how you can save water next summer.
So the landscaping takes more than traditional just showers and doing your dishes and stuff. Is that the big pull on water is landscaping?
Particularly in the summer, that's the
summer.
big surge.
Yeah,
You can use a lot of water in an irrigation system.
Good. Good. Well, this has been very insightful and very informative, and I really appreciate you coming out, Kevin, to share with us your expertise in this water conservation, because it's a really important thing that, again, I just want to put that out there that people need to be thinking about, including myself.
Mhm.
So I've learned a lot today, and I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. It's been great being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.